Number 10, utilize signature blocks. Signature blocks are a great component you can add to the end of your business messages. To have a good signature block, it should list your name, the company you work for, your position in your company, as well as any of your contact information like your phone number, your company's website, or maybe even your LinkedIn profile. Not only does adding a signature block make your identity and contact information more clear to the recipient, but it also just makes your message look a lot more professional. And after learning about these, I actually decided to go and add my own signature block at the end of all my messages that come from my work email. Number 9, communicate delayed responses professionally. Another great thing I learned in this course is that it's always best to notify colleagues when you might not be able to get back to them by email as soon as they expect. It's completely normal to not know the answer to a question right away, or you might need a little bit of extra time to complete a task. In that scenario, the most professional thing to do is reply to the sender, acknowledge that you've seen their message, and let them know when you can respond to them fully or have the task requested complete. This is something I can definitely learn from because I personally kind of have a bad habit of kind of replying to a message in my head and not physically replying to that person. So I can definitely take note that it's always best to at least let the sender know that you see their message, when you'll get back to them, and even add it to your calendar if you need that extra encouragement. Number 8, be aware of semantic noise. Semantic noise happens when people hear the same words or phrases, but they apply different meanings to it. And it can happen very easily at the workplace just from maybe using a little bit too much jargon or cliches, not giving clear enough instructions, or just as simple as age and cultural differences. I know for me personally, working at a doctor's office, I experience a lot of semantic noise. Simply because I'm a 21-year-old girl, and a lot of our patients, I would say, are over the age of 55. So I could be explaining something to a patient, and my coworker next to me, who's the same age as me, understands it perfectly. But the patient I'm speaking to might be a little confused and just not really get what I'm trying to say. And that's completely okay. I shouldn't get frustrated. I should just think more about what I'm trying to say and how I can word it in a way that's more clear to the person I'm trying to say it to. Number 7, the STAR method. Chapter 17 introduces this method, and it's great for when you're telling success stories during an interview. You start with S, the situation that led to a positive outcome, then T, the task you were assigned, then you explain A, the actions you took that finally led to R, your result. This is great if you're like me and kind of have a tendency to go off on a tangent when you're telling stories. I definitely plan to keep this method in mind in future interviews to make sure I stay on task and really highlight my key attributes. Number 6, assume positive intent. This advice comes from chapter 4, which is one of my favorite chapters in this course. And a quote from this section that stood out to me is that in most instances of miscommunication, the people involved have positive intentions. And I think this is a very important thing to remember when you're entering the workforce and also just going through life. When you're working and collaborating with other people, miscommunication can happen very easily, and it's also very easy to assume that people might be upset with you or that they're not being pleased enough by your work. And I think it's always best to just try to really come to understanding and assume those positive intentions with the people you're communicating with. Because at the end of the day, you most likely share a common goal, especially if you're working together. And holding those positive intentions in your mind can help you come to those solutions a lot easier. Number 5, the importance of transparency. Transparency is very important when you're establishing credibility, and it's actually right now looked at as the most dominant business ethic. You display transparency by being open and honest with all relevant information to stakeholders, making yourself available, and maintaining communication. And I believe that trust is very important when you're a leader, and a key component to trust is by being transparent. And when I stepped into my leadership role as treasurer for my sorority, I knew that I not only wanted to establish transparency, but I wanted to maintain it throughout my term. And so it's definitely a priority of mine to be open and honest when it comes to my position with all my sisters and make sure that all their voices are heard and let them know that they can come to me with any questions and that I'm very honest about everything that I'm sharing. Number 4, the importance of caring. You show caring in your workplace by trying to build relationships in community, making an effort to understand the interests of other people, and just by displaying generosity. Studies have shown that caring is in the top three skills of good managers in any line of work, and it's definitely needed to establish credibility in the workplace. One of the biggest takeaways I got from this section is that caring is definitely a priority and should not be a choice. You should want to display caring in the workplace, and I think we all thrive more in an environment where we feel supported and respected. Number three, build a personal brand. A personal brand is a great way to show potential employers what makes you different from other candidates. It's short, but it really does convey so much to an employer the kind of value you would bring as an employee. You're able to show your emotional appeal, your professional position, and your professional value proposition. I did not know what a personal brand was before this course, but I found it really interesting, and I think it would be cool to go through and answer the questions given in Chapter 17 to help you construct your own personal brand and answer them now as a student, and then go back in a couple years as I've been in the workforce for a little bit and see how my answers compare as far as if my aspirations have changed or if I've met the goals I set for myself. Number two, learner mindset. A learner mindset means that you not only listen to the ideas and perspectives of other people, but you listen with an open mind. Meaning that while you might not agree with what the other person is saying, you choose to listen anyways and find a common goal. And an interesting thing about learner mindsets is that having those different opinions is actually a really important part because it allows you to ask questions and learn from the perspective of others. We can always learn more from hearing other people's point of view. And I think that I want to adopt this mindset now while I'm in school and carry it into group projects or my leadership positions and maybe influence other people to show eagerness in other people's ideas and ask more questions and in turn create a more positive and well flowing conversation. Number one, self management. I think in order to apply all these tips to the best of your ability, it's important to have good self management, meaning you're able to recognize and understand your own emotions and use them to create positivity. I think in order to have good self management, you should be able to control your urges and also use positive and negative emotions to reach personal and business goals. I think it's never good to let your emotions let you act impulsively and risk losing your credibility or even your professional position. Therefore, it's always best to understand your emotions and your reactions. That way, you can use them to make positive and beneficial outcomes or use them as a learning experience.